Please tell our audience about yourself.
I've been a CIO for about 30 years. I started in government, and my first role was to be an engineer for New York City Transit Authority, an electrical engineer. I think I was their first woman engineer and probably the first electrical engineer in the Department of Buses. So that was a fascinating role at a college. I'm originally from Iran. I was born in Tehran, and I came here when I was 14, 15 years old, and I studied engineering. So I've gone through different roles in my career. From an engineer, I went to the unit chief engineer in charge of testing and inspection and design for the MetroCard program. And that was in 1986, a long time ago. And that's when we were just beginning to pilot the product, and we're doing a lot of design around the appliances in the subway stations, the MetroCard itself, the systems around the MetroCard, basically moving New Yorkers from a token to digital cash. And moving the organization, which spent a lot of time on counting token, counting the cash, collecting it, returning it back, and selling the tokens. I mean, this is an extensive amount of work and resources. From there, I went to manufacturing. I was the vice president of a manufacturing firm in a Navy Yard. We started to do manufacturing and actually renovate and rebuild trains and buses in New York, which was the first time. I went back to transit around 91, 92, and ended up being the CIO and the head of the MetroCard program. And towards the end, when I was leaving, it was a much more expanded role, not only technology for the New York City Transit, which was a 45,000 organization, employees within the organization, but more diverse oversight over the card itself, the sponsorship, the marketing, and other aspects of it. From there, I went to Ogilvy as their global CIO for about 9.5 years. And that was it was a pretty big change, going from government to the private sector, which was fascinating for me. And it involved deploying technology across 400 offices in 100 countries, and understanding the different markets, Europe, Latin America, Eastern Europe, the BRIC markets, Brazil, Russia, India, China. And around that time is when technology was exploding, and marketing companies were looking at building in their interactive arm and building their digital arm, and the amortization of technology where consumers were digesting information and media and information, a lot differently than they were prior to that. And then after that, I went to start a non-for-profit called CIOs Without Borders, and that's where the one thing I saw during my travels globally was the impact of e-waste. It's something that us as CIOs contribute to that. And if you look at electronics, there's a tremendous amount of mercury and lead, poison, in these equipments. And there is a lack of focus and lack of responsibility on the behalf of our sector, both in terms of manufacturing, where we put these chemicals in this, and the manufacturers put them in this equipment, and on the behalf of the practitioners like us, where we turn away from the impact. And we are not responsible about making sure we have proper e-waste. So this equipment that we ship from the West to China, India, is basically polluting the environment. Mercury and lead are things that, if you go to China, you see little kids playing with wires and dismantling these boards, things that you and I would never let our children close unless they have hazmat equipment and clothes on them. So I wanted to focus on e-waste and raise awareness and persuade our sector to begin lobbying against these chemicals in electronics. And secondly, I am a big believer that technology has a tremendous impact. It can truly improve human life. If you look at the impact of technology in healthcare and education, if you look at the digital divide and the lack of having technology. So we did some work around the Agent Orange. We built them a website as CIOs Without Borders because we wanted to make sure we raised awareness around the impact of this on not second but third generation in Vietnam. And there was another project in Rwanda that we co-sponsored with the Stevens Institute, because if you look at Rwanda has 10 million people and only 400 doctors, and lots of people die from just basic disease that you and I can easily go get antibiotics or just prevention of the disease. There was this great person named Abraham George who had done some work in India, and he had developed an expert system that would diagnose most diseases and you'd be able to give medication. And we wanted to bring that to Rwanda because you can't get doctors, you can't get nurses, but guess what? You can get a technician with a piece of software and a $2,000 lab. And through the expert system, you could diagnose 70 to 80% of illnesses and treat. So it's fascinating.